Healthy fives go where?
Healthy fives go to 8.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like self-advocacy,
Yeah.
show up in strength.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So I've done that.
Yeah, you've done both.
What?
But it's
Champion
not a
of the
bad
underdog.
thing. It's
You've
not a
done
bad
both.
thing to go to your 7 all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Healthy people access all the
Exactly.
best parts of all the numbers.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just
There's so
realized
many
it was on.
availabilities.
But that we
Wow.
just realized the camera was on. Welcome to the Voxology podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we've done how many episodes have we done, Stafford?
This is like 454.
454.
Wow.
Right, that's a lot. 9 years worth of
Wow.
episodes. I don't know that there's ever been a more joyous occasion for a podcast than today. If you are watching on the YouTubes, you will notice the stylish digs that do not exist in our living rooms. If you are listening per usual, you will not appreciate the fact that Suzie Lind, Tim Stafford, Mike Erie, and Timothy Gombis are all in the same room together
It's
at
so
once.
fun.
First time ever.
At once. We just went and had burgers and beers. Susie's about 4 beers deep. We're very excited about this. She is not at all. She was the only one who didn't have a beer. Let's just be clear about that. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered. The Avengers have assembled.
That's right.
In Brentwood, Tennessee, for the 2024 non-conference, or as we call it, the Nonference. Hosted by Journey Church, which I happen to work at. Suzie, one of my many bosses, she is a executive pastor on the elder board. She also does nonprofit work. She's a gifted teacher, blah, blah, blah. Tim Stafford. What
None
can
of
you say
those.
about Tim Stafford? I don't know. Tim Gombis. Tim Gombis, I mean, you all know he's Gombis. He is a verb, a noun, an adverb. He is a participle.
Reverb.
Yep,
Maybe a pejorative.
He is maybe a pejorative. Not always.
Cuss word.
Yeah. Damn Gombis.
Yeah.
So a shout out to our friend Edwin, who is recording us today and going to edit this sucker. So there will be a level of production.
Don't get used to it.
Temper your expectations.
Yes.
If this is your first time on
Yes.
Voxology,
Yeah.
It's all
Please
down
come
to
back
here.
next
do
week.
not ever get used to this. Yes. The only significant person we're missing is Seth Erie, who
Yeah.
thankfully is back to school. And especially after the last episode.
last,
So
yeah.
by the time we release this, the Nonference will be over. We are meeting on the Tuesday before it begins. It's a Tuesday at 4:00 to Thursday at 4:00 event.
Everybody will be here in an hour and 45
An
minutes.
hour and 45 minutes. We are ready. The theme this year
Well.
is, yeah. Okay, fair. That's fair. That's why we're recording it before and not after.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah,
So great.
it could be a train wreck. But
Lives were changed.
lives were changed. So this year,
better, for worse, that's
we thought we would explore a bit of Gombis's work on power and weakness. Right? Here's the great transition. And if you've not read the book, and again, we don't like stumping for things or selling things or whatever, but it's for me, it's one of the best books I've ever
In this case, though.
read. Yeah, in this case, we should have had it here on the.
I know.
on the
Yeah,
we just had
stack
a whole
of books.
conversation
Totally,
about that,
totally,
too.
just totally missed a marketing opportunity. But we gave it to the attendees. We asked them to read it. We figured 10% probably have read it. Some have flipped through it. But Gombis is here to kind of speak. It's like set the theological table. Then we have a spiritual director, we have Suzie, we have myself and Stafford, and we're just going to be leading conversations of people who are doing some form of vocational ministry around this idea, and with the goal being to rehumanize not only vocational ministry, but really the Christian faith. I mean, I as we've talked about many times, I was told the goal of Christianity was to save my soul into a disembodied heaven forever. And there was very little instruction given about the rest of life. You know, I was evangelized with the question, what happens if you die? And I was never evangelized with the question, what happens if you live tonight, you know? So we're really passionate about seeing people who are in vocational ministry contexts being rehumanized, not because there's this malicious dehumanizing thing out there, but in the ways that we've adapted to American Christianity and some of the forms that we use make it hard sometimes to be authentically human. What? Yeah, I know. Shocking. So Tim, I thought we'd start with you. This is going to be free flowing. This is not an interview, so we interrupt. Stafford is so great at make movie comments under his breath. Gombis, I'm expecting some song references.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But I thought we would set the table by talking a little bit about power and weakness and kind of if you could summarize the big idea in 5 minutes. And I know that's a challenge for someone as loquacious as Mr. Gombis. It's great. Anytime we interview Tim Gombis, we only have to have 3 questions prepared, and then it's glorious. So I have one today, and that is, tell us about power and weakness, and then we're going to dive in and chew on it.
All right. Yeah.
First of all, how great is it to be in Brentwood, Tennessee right now?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay, that's forced. Secondly, what do you think of our
Yeah, I love it here.
deluxe studio?
This is really impressive.
Get a little
Fantastic.
bit of suntan right now.
Yeah, seriously.
Am
This is
I better looking in person or
Oh, yeah.
via Riverside? Which would you say? Okay. All right. Didn't get an answer. Okay. So back to power and weakness. Gombis.
Yeah, so a couple things. First, at the start of our last time we talked, you said you keep getting letters asking you if I'm okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Are you
Yeah.
being serious? Was that serious?
That was
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
The questions were, you're well thought of.
That's really hilarious.
It is shocking. But
I
people
wonder
actually
why. Like,
care
where
about
does that
you.
come from?
Well-
I thought about that after. I was like,
Well,
What is
you
the
went
deal?
from living in Michigan and
just some like dramatic life changes and like
yeah,
everyone just-
to living in Louisville and teaching substitute
Yeah.
elementary school teaching,
Yeah.
gym classes you were telling us
yeah.
a little bit ago. So yeah,
That's really wild.
I think people were just naturally going, and
Oh, that's
not
really
from
cool.
any place of like criticism or critique or whatever. I think it was just naturally
Yeah,
like,
concern.
No, I think you're
You
part
okay,
of the,
bro?
You're part of the crew.
hey, yeah, that's for better or worse, man.
Yeah.
You've been
I
painted.
just thought that was really interesting.
It is very sweet. It's actually very sweet. And
Well, just so you all know out there,
tell them.
I'm great.
Yes.
I'm really good.
Let me
I'm
tell you
really
right
good.
now, Tim Gombis is far better looking in person than he is. The gray hair. I mean, it's salt and pepper. It's beautiful.
All right,
He's
so,
got this Greek
2
Greek
weeks ago,
skin.
2 weeks ago, I got, and this, I love this about my life. I feel like I've hit my sweet spot with second and third graders. That's
Yep.
where I belong.
Yep.
And I've had so much fun with elementary school kids. I have had the best time these last 5 months. And this is like, I save every one of these because I'm so proud of them. I get notes at the end of the day
Come on.
from these little kids.
Aw,
It's
that's
so
so
cool.
Oh.
This one, this one was hilarious.
Edwin just jumped.
This girl, it was this run on, like,
Oh yeah.
you're the best, blah, blah, blah. And she said, I love your hair. It looks like heaven.
Wow.
Wow.
Isn't that hilarious? I was like, okay, well, that's.
Yeah.
I got on a Zoom call the other day,
Yeah.
and this guy,
Yeah.
huge New Testament scholar, I was like,
Yeah.
we had to talk about something. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, okay, put on
Yeah.
a collared shirt for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And this was right. He goes, he comes on, he goes, whoa, that's a lot of white. Dude.
What?
Wow.
That's a
that
power.
crazy?
That's a power move.
I was like,
Right.
okay, whatever.
Yeah.
wow.
I must have
Okay.
been the lighting.
Okay.
Anyway.
So your hair looks like
Whatever.
heaven if you imagine heaven is white. I
Wow.
think that's the
I
idea.
think that was
there.
like the best. Yeah. Your hair looks like heaven. Anyway.
Okay, well that's amazing.
All right.
Those are things I've personally never heard.
Yeah,
but
me
go
neither.
ahead.
I did not know where that was
But I'm
coming
just
from.
saying the
I
combination
had to ask her, and
with
she
your
says, because
kind
it's
of
white.
olive Greekness. I mean, it's I don't know what would Stafford. I'm not going to ask you, Suzie, to comment on this, but Stafford, would you use the phrase "silver fox" here? Do you think that's an appropriate use?
100%.
Okay. So yes, Gombis is okay. All right, let's clear that up.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
good. I'm really good.
So tell us
Yeah.
about power and weakness, Silver
Yeah.
Fox.
Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, I would actually want to talk about this for a while. Talking about authenticity and like being
Oh.
genuine.
Is that your real hair? Okay, sorry, dumb.
I had highlights done before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually working through all these concepts over Over the last 20 years, more intensely the last 10 years, and then super intensely the last 5 years, that enabled me to go through life transitions, I think, well, and not to be like absolutely rocked. I mean, you go through certain experiences of life and they're destabilizing and traumatizing and emotional and all of that. But it was several years before some dramatic life changes for me in September 2021 to September 2022, where I really did a lot of serious work along the lines of thinking about what does it look like for my life to take the shape of the cross. And what if the cross was like this massive suction device or something like that? I don't know. But like this magnetic device of just drawing all the elements of my life onto it. And so like all of, career, family, publishing agenda, plans I had, all of that, the stuff, job, career, status in the New Testament Guild, all of those things that like I would have inherited an impulse to like put my self-worth there and to imagine my value being attached to those things. But a couple years before all this happened, I really did that work to imagine like what matters about me if like so much stuff was shaved away and the cross were to sort of draw all the elements of my life onto it in the hope of generating resurrection power. What would that look like and what matters? And that sort of culminated, I think probably there was a time that was probably about 4 months before some big events that I had no control over took place. And I remember just one day just saying out loud in my office, just saying, I'm loved by Maddie, Jake, and Riley. I'm loved by Steve and Lance and Shawnee, and that's what matters. The rest is gravy. I'm loved by God, and the rest is gravy, and it can go. Like if it goes, I'll be okay. If this goes, I'll be okay. But what would rock me is if any one of you were to talk to like one of my kids and they were like, yeah, he's a wreck, or like there's trouble. But those relationships are significant. And they're healthy, and so when my life hit some bumps, I hit an iceberg.
There it is. There it is. Yep.
I'm still afloat. Anyway.
Yeah.
You lose your balance, lose your wife. Anyway.
Wow.
So when stuff hit, I felt like I'll be all right. I'll be okay. I can make adjustments, and if you saw, life circumstances from a remove, you'd be like, oh, tenured professor now to, gym class with third graders. That's a big step down. But I'm like, it's not anything.
Yeah.
Those are just sort of external. For me, all it is like the location from which my paycheck comes.
Right.
It did nothing to sort of define me.
So if,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and like we can start to talk about ministry aspects of things, but for me, cruciformity looks like just having all the aspects of my life on the cross. And then especially when I think about my humanity and like what we were talking about at lunch, like all of my survival mechanisms, all of my self-protective strategies, all of the relational dynamics that I've used to get myself through this world and to stay intact. Those things just breed corruption, relational corruption, personal corruption, because I want to look like I'm okay. It matters that I have this job. I want to make sure that, I look like I'm all put together, so I will pursue prestige. all those pursuits and all of that, especially, all of that has to be claimed by the cross. So, I mean, I would put that, you talked about at lunch, Suzie, about like, what are the biblical theological categories? I think for me, what's been useful is to think in terms of idolatries, that like, idolatry makes sense because it always promises something. It promises like a quick route to what really matters and like a legitimate desire. I want to have meaning. I want to have significance and value. And so like, I imagine having, a successful publishing agenda or having a job or having some kind of prestige is going to give me that. So for me, taking the shape of the cross has been doing the work of searching around in my life and just rummaging through the areas of my life on the lookout for idolatries. Where do they lurk? And they're everywhere. They're just always self-generating. And so for me, it's been like, in personal encounters, I want to come off in a certain way. Okay, so what are the set of behaviors that I enact when that is associated with that?
So the idolatry sitting behind that would be what, approval?
Yeah, approval, or I want to look, I want to look like I have it together, or I want to come off with a positive impression, instead of, so like in encounters, I want to look good, or I want to win, or I want to, exert power in a certain personal encounter, instead of imagining that the gift is not to have the prestige that comes from all of that, but the gift is the encounter itself. And the gift is like being open to like what this person can give to me and what I might be able to give to that person, or what we can enjoy together, or what we can sort of lament together. Like just being open to the wide range of possibilities in any encounter and in any relationship. And so what that will mean for me personally is, fighting past that desire to just toy flee and be like away from humans for weeks at a time, but to show up to this, and I did a lot of shoulder work this morning.
Nice.
Like,
nice. You could tell.
Like in this sense of like, I mean, honestly, on my walk, I just had to keep setting my shoulders back.
Why? What does that do?
It's like, it's relaxing.
Releases.
And it's like, instead of closing down, like I don't know what will be required of me. It'll probably be overwhelming. I don't know. Instead of like opening my chest up, putting my shoulders back, and being open to what will be asked of me in an exchange with somebody I don't know yet, or what might I enjoy with somebody that I don't know yet. I don't like. The reality is, my significance and what gives me meaning is already established. So like, I already have God's yes to me and God's affirmation, and so I'm liberated to have an exchange. Like, I don't know if you're the same way, Tim, but I feel like I'm always socially awkward. And so I don't want to ever have like, I feel like I don't want to have.
Ask Stafford that.
I don't want to.
Why would you ask Stafford?
I don't want to have interchanges because I know I'll come off looking.
I call
bizarre.
them interchanges. Yes, others call them conversations
with the other talking devices.
Yes.
Flee.
We're having an interchange.
And it's like my value is already set. So if I come off as socially awkward, it's okay.
So look, can I dumb this down?
Do it.
Well, because I think the language like cruciform, that kind of stuff, can be a tripping point for people, where it's another Christian rhetorical word. Is it? So what you're talking about, say it's a Thursday morning and you have X, Y, and Z on the calendar. Is it a self-talk? Like, so as I'm working through anxiety in therapy, so much of it is like when you feel it, because I've spent years not feeling it, or not, I felt it, but not being recognizing it. So it's like taking a beat, saying, I feel anxious. And what does that feel like? Where do I feel it? What might be causing all this kind of stuff? Like trying to develop new muscles in my brain that allow me to be more in tune with what my body is experiencing. Is it similar to that, where it's like, what kind of, what you want to call them, idolatries or different things that you maybe might be stacking up in the day, to self-talk through that, to recognize this is what these things are. This is one way that I could approach them. This is the other way that I can approach them. Is that what this looks like? Like, is that what putting those things on the cross looks like and means to you on a daily basis?
Yeah. So like so like on a Thursday morning, having to, like, I'm going to go into X elementary school, talk to, secretary, meet the principal probably, or whatever, say hi to all the human interaction, which when I wake up in the morning,
we call them interchanges. Yes, I must interchange.
All the encounters with the humans. It's like, I just get I get this, my stomach is just in knots.
Yeah.
And I just don't, I honestly fantasize about, like, somebody please phone in a bomb threat, or someone
my
like,
gosh.
please let there be an earthquake, or like,
Yeah.
God, an atomic blast that doesn't do too much damage, but just shuts the schools for the day.
That just gets you out of subbing.
Totally.
But I still get my paycheck.
Yeah,
I don't want to lose the paycheck.
Oh, totally.
But just shut the thing.
Yeah, it's like it's like elaborately
very
planned
defined.
so that I still get paid, but I don't have to see the people for the day. But it's like, what would be my strategies to self-protect?
Yeah.
And I know what they are. And so, like, what I do, this is what I do. This is the work that I do on my walks. Is I just think through. One of the things I tell myself is I already have everything I need within me today, for what I need for today. And the nervousness that I'm feeling is excitement. Like, it's going to be a great day. Mm-hmm. And I have to, and I tell myself, I add value to the spaces I inhabit. And when I relax and show up, I enhance the environments that I'm in. And then I kind of have to fight through those initial couple of encounters, and just, again, it's my shoulders, put my shoulders back.
Note to self: be the third person.
Be the third encounter. Be the
Tim
close
sees.
encounters of the third kind is what we're shooting for.
It always
person.
ends up going great, but I just think in terms of, like, I'm gonna laugh today. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have fun.
Would you have to tell yourself driving here? Just tell me just a little bit.
No, this started yesterday.
Okay.
This is gonna be
so
great.
good.
This is gonna be
This is
good.
gonna be great.
I'm going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
This is gonna be great. I'm like, I'm gonna.
How would a human person deal with these exchanges? Well, I think they would have fun. Yeah, interchanges. I think they would have fun. I think they'll be laughing. I will put my shoulders back like a human being.
See, but that was me in the hotel this morning, where I was like, I woke up anxious.
Totally
I'm
get
like,
it.
why am I so anxious right now? What's going on? Like, don't be an idiot. Like, you're about to enter into a
I know.
uncomfortable
And I
space.
have to admit, I dread, like, I'm an introvert to the core. And so I dread expenditure. Like, I just hoard emotional energy and relational energy. So I'm nervous too. But I don't know that I'm nervous about the social aspects as much of, like, I won't have reserves later. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have a very thin level of relational.
Like, you can do it, but you'll be exhausted.
Yes, and I fear the Enneagram folks I read call that depletion.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I fear that place because that's when I go hunting dopamine.
Oh, okay.
And so often for me, vocational ministry has been the depleting and then the chasing after dopamine that doesn't ever deliver, what it promises.
Yeah.
That's the idolatry of it.
Yeah.
So if you know that you're going to be depleted at the end of something like this, and you have a couple days that you plan for
Right.
enjoying your depletion,
Yeah.
are you still looking for dopamine in those days, or are you not, because you've arranged your life in such a way that you can refill? And
For some, I don't, and I can't, it's hard to put words to the emotional state, but it's literally it's like a void. Like, I don't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so I will still always be tempted to chase dopamine, but I've learned enough about myself that that I have better boundaries around, I'm not working that day. I'm going to sit on the couch and watch hockey that day. I'm going to, there's a slow build back. But my poor wife, when we were first married, I was teaching 5 services at a fast-growing church.
Jeez,
and I was in survival mode, but she didn't know that. So for her,
well, you probably didn't.
Did you not know?
I didn't
that?
know that. Yeah. So she worked all week as a teacher. We had 2 little kids. She would come home, and I would be absolutely unavailable to her. I mean, she still carries resentment around from that. And I didn't know what I was doing, but what I was doing was hoarding emotional, relational energy. So I was never available to her.
Yeah.
I was hoarding that for the 5 services, the performing. And so part of rehumanizing ministry for me has been exactly what you're talking about, right? Trying to organize life and ministry in a way where that depletion isn't as complete and utter as it was, during that season.
Are you able to have interchanges with people and guard your depletion? Like, is it all or nothing, or is it?
It feels all or nothing, but it's not. So I'm able to, and I'm improving. And it's so funny, Voxology community, we all went out to lunch and we all were sharing stories about what we're learning in therapy. And there just is something about this age that we're all in, except for Suzie. She's totally Gen Z, internally.
Totally.
And
no cap.
No cap. That's not sus at all. These are interchanges.
Okay. This is what the humans do.
I love it. But I don't know what we were talking about. I totally lost it.
How jacked up we are.
Yes. Well, it's fascinating to me that like this whole area of conversation has been segmented away from the topic of discipleship.
Oh, yeah.
But this is some other area. So this is psychiatry, psychology. Yeah. It's almost like
it's railed against.
Yes.
Discipleship has been dehumanizing.
Yes. And so I was just sitting there listening to our conversation, observing all of us nut jobs, sitting there going, "Oh my goodness, we are crazy," but at the same time thinking, man, looking like you put cruciform language on that, and all of a sudden, I'm attending to like some of the deepest realities of my new identity and the fight for my former way of life against my new identity. Like it's not theoretical anymore. It's actual, like this is how I cope. And I live into my former pattern of life. And this is what newness in Christ looks like. And it's not some abstract religious exercise. It's being present with someone when I'm angry with them or whatever.
Yeah.
It's immensely practical.
Yeah.
And that's the weakness that we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's
There's
living
power
in the real.
in that weakness.
I mean,
Yeah. Totally.
is there a book called that?
So for me, it's like what's interesting is I don't fear depletion. What I fear, I'm sorry I keep referencing you, Tim, but
I'm in it.
I think the
They
fear
are so much
we're just
alike,
So,
it's
so
ridiculous.
similar. I think for me the fear is driven by intense, overpowering, debilitating shame. So that if I and so like the lie that I've always believed and that I've built all of my mechanisms and my trying to look for a synonym for interchanges, but
Dynamics?
What I've built, what I've armored up to protect myself against
go.
is to be seen, because I believe the lie that if I am seen fully, I will be seen as like fatally flawed and like profoundly fractured and utterly broken. It be like in a way that's beyond redemption. And so like so for me, leaning into weakness and leaning into the cross and is to put the lies on the cross, let the cross claim the lies and to crucify the lies and to lean into the truth, which is when I show up and fight through initial feelings of awkwardness and fear and the fear of social awkwardness. Well, actually what I do tell myself is in social situations, I'm fine. And when I show up, I have loads of gifts to bring. And I have loads of capacity to celebrate the gifts of others and to enjoy the gifts of others and to benefit from the gifts of others. And so I don't have to be afraid of that. So for me, like what I know, like what I'm feeling in my body over the last couple of days, like leading up to the drive. I'm glad it's a 3-hour drive. 'Cause it's just like, heal me, Radiohead.
I'm gonna have
It's like-
fun. I'm gonna have fun.
It's just like this will be great. This
Yeah.
will be great.
Yeah.
Loud music.
I'm a gift.
It's to prepare myself for the reality that there will be like a range of like heavy conversations that I will be so dialed in for, because I know I have that gear.
Yeah.
And like crazy times that I'll be totally dialed in for, because I've got that gear. And there's this self-renewing, self-generating dynamic of like fourness, which I've discovered, which I think is wonderful. And what will happen is at the end of this, I will be so freaking energized. I will not be depleted at all if I just relax. But for me, that's the work, is the relaxation.
And that's what is depleting for me.
It's work.
Is not, if I can't do that,
Yeah.
then I'll feel the physical weight of.
Yeah. Well, if I walk into situations like this, so for me, there's been this whole orientation of life that's built around this. So like limitations of my schedule.
Yeah.
Like
Quipping.
I guard my 2
Quippings.
hours in the morning.
Yeah.
Like my 2 hours in the morning, like nobody touches that ever. Like I have to walk 7 miles. I have to. Otherwise I'll be so unhealthy. And I have to go through I go through my gratitude list. I do my poetry. I have to go through that. And like mantras and like just to like, for me, it's like there's this volcano inside that is like all oriented around shame, and it's overpowering. And so like if I just reckon with everything that I'm feeling and reckon with the truth and remind myself of what is true in theological categories and in biblical language, and like knowing and reckoning with the reality that I'm already loved by God. That's established, like, and I'm already set right. And I'm already seen fully, and I'm known as not having flaws. I'm known as just beloved.
Yeah.
And I'm delighted in.
Yeah.
So that's set.
Yeah.
But I have to let that reality kind of pervade.
It takes
And
7
then-
miles.
It does. It takes a while.
3 hours of driving.
And like when I
Yeah.
set out, I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I
And
don't
not
want to do
7
this.
miles
I don't do this.
just on Monday. It's 7 miles Monday, Tuesday,
Oh, yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, it's every morning. It's like it's just, but it takes that time, so that like by the time I'm done, it's still a volcano, but it's a volcano of Skittles.
Of love. All right. Speaking of volcano of skills,
Skittles.
I want to. Oh, Skittles.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a Skittle-shaped volcano.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. I was like, of skills. I was like, okay. I didn't
Taste the
understand
rainbow,
that.
Mike.
Suzie Lynn,
Yes.
as the most
On the spot.
socially warm, wonderful person clearly in this room.
It's a low bar.
Yeah. I
The one who can talk to you.
No offense, Edwin.
So how do social interactions become cruciform shaped for you? So I mean, do you have a driving fear of social awkwardness?
mean, no, I'm not afraid of being socially awkward. I feel socially awkward a lot, but I don't fear it. I just have gotten kind of used to that. I think listening to you, Tim Gombis, talk about shame, that I resonate with that. But I think for me, the bigger fear is failure. So that's always my go-to and that's wrapped up in shame. It's a different version of shame. But yeah, I mean, I think the awkwardness comes when I feel like I'm going to fail as like whatever I'm supposed to do in that moment, whoever I'm supposed to show up as. That's what we were talking about at lunch. So I have to do the work of the same thing. Like I have to do the work of like, I mean, for me, it's breathing. I think my shoulders, I might try that, but it's breathing and recognizing like how far I've come and how, I don't need to prove myself, that I don't need to, like, I've been asked because I am qualified. I've been, like it's the same kind of pep talk that kind of speaks to all the lies that I tend to believe. So for me, to be cruciformed, it's killing my ego. So it's literally like putting that up.
So that it doesn't matter if you fail.
Yeah. I mean, I go through this every time I teach.
Yeah.
It's like I have to go through this process of killing my ego before Sunday. or else the message doesn't come together, because I get so tripped up between what's me and what's God, and what do I want to say that's driven by the Holy Spirit and that's in the text, and what do I want to say that's going to make, be helpful for other people but credited to me. Or what am I going to say that's wrong, that's going to destroy somebody, that's going to hurt somebody, that's going to be heretical, that's wrong theologically, all those things. And I just have to, the work to become a cruciform person is to put all of that up there and trust, like you said, trust that I have what I need. And if I'm wrong, I can admit that I'm wrong.
Oh, that's so good.
And that's okay.
That's so good. Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like, correct me, but from what we've talked about as parts of your story, the church environment that we were all raised in punished extra hard.
Yeah.
There's
no room.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let alone being a woman.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's okay. That's where I was going.
Like when I first started teaching, I think that's where some of this was formed in me, because I was so afraid of stepping on toes or getting it wrong, or not being as smart or as trained or as having the reps that my male counterparts had, or and it's like, if you do one thing, it's always that voice of oh, well, this is why women shouldn't teach, or this is
so you're carrying all that weight
it's
beyond just
of course she's crying, or I don't know, it's just all those things that kind of stay in the back of your mind.
Well, and then as we were talking about earlier, they live in your body.
Yeah. So it's the deferring too, right? It lives in my body in the sense of I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I didn't want to overstep my place, quote unquote, as a woman in the particular environments I was in. And so in my body's natural tendency is always to defer. And that's something I've really been trying to break free from, but it's hard.
Because I was thinking about that earlier. Is deferring as a woman, is that a self-protective measure? Ultimately,
I don't think so. I think it's a fear. To me, I would defer because I was afraid of being too much.
That's what I'm saying. So it's
maybe
self-protective. So the reason I'm asking that is because and this is what I think would be interesting to have discussion about with men and women in ministry, is I think that cruciformity for men who have been centered, and the assumption is, well, you're going to be the speaker or whatever, right. Or ultimately, okay, thank you, Suzie, that was cute, but we have the ultimate say of things. It's cruciformity especially for white men in ministry settings, will often look like saying less, taking a few beats in a discussion, not cutting her off. And cruciformity for a woman, because we're all crucifying our self-protective strategies, might look like stepping up,
right,
or being assertive, or trying to cultivate those muscles or those moves.
But is that a planting of that in a healthy? Because that could easily become a combative.
Totally.
Be ego-driven, I deserve this space. I am just as qualified to be in this space, and
an
coming from a place of anger. Yeah. So it's almost the same self-talk I would assume, to be able to plant yourself and be able to assert yourself, but in a way that's healthy and known.
Sure.
And it's just so everything's so nuanced and complicated. Just the four of us at this table are built fairly. Maybe you and I aren't, but are built fairly different.
Oh, very different.
So but it's so beautiful and wonderful and interesting, because everything you're talking about, each of us would have to take a little bit of a different route to it, which makes it a personal, I don't want to say sacrifice. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean? Because we were talking about how many people in the church and a lot of people in ministry they want a script to follow that makes it really easy to say, this is what the gospel is, this is where you're lacking, this is what we can offer you, period. Yeah. Sign on the dotted line, you get it. But instead, it's oh, you guys have journey here. It's a room full of individual or differently built humans who have been on different pathways. a script is not necessarily going to work for every
Not
person.
at all.
Yeah.
So, but we approach it that way.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think, okay, so one of the, I mean, I would say it a whole lot more forcefully, Mike, about like, yes, evangelical ministry frameworks and structures at the structural level over the last century have been built to be dehumanizing to people in ministry.
Yeah.
And like there's, 1,800 ways in which that's the case, but you just brought up one, which is it's streamlined, which is, because capitalism streamlines everything, efficiency, getting, like it's, here's how it goes, pop, pop, pop. And like the first thing you have to do, like, for example, first thing you have to do is deal with pride, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Well, you tell me as a 4-ish person to deal with pride. I've never had it. Do you know what I mean?
Done. Am I in?
It's
check.
I've always had this overpowering sense of shame. And so for me, my work, if I'm going to step out of, self-protective strategies so that I'm just never seen, the way that the cross wants to claim me as somebody that's in, a ministry practitioner, is going to look very different from where Suzie is starting from in a path of growth, and very different from where Mike is. It's like those, like my issues are just not Mike's issues. My issues are just not Suzie's issues. And so it's like ours are similar. But I just, it's nice to have sort of a, I think this is what's nice about Jesus's parables, is that he's sort of giving these stories that are just, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
So that
there's no formula.
Yeah. So that everybody can sort of, like, as communities, we can kind of pull the stories over on top of us and be like, all right, now how did that just reset the table for me?
Yeah.
And for you.
Yep.
And for you. Like, it just reset the table. It just exposed a bunch of stuff for me, and probably didn't for anybody else. And it just offered pathways of hope for me that are going to look different and sound different than for other people. You were talking about this language at lunch, about like how you have these varieties of images and frames and language sets that, there are one or two that just resonate with me, and some that I hear it, I'm like, dud, that does nothing. That does nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what's great about, a variety of teachers and a variety of authors and speakers and people, like resources, that some are going to speak to us and some just aren't,
Well, when you're trying to build a community, and I think about this, and
he's pointing to Center Set Church Book. Yep. For those 12 on YouTube. Yep. Perfect.
Get it at your local bookstore.
With how, like, if everyone's coming here, just to use Journey as the example, to be a part of a community, to be a part of a unit together, some people are going to be found stuck up on a rock. Someone's going to be in a tree. Someone's going to be 12 miles down the road while someone's near the well. It's like how the language that you use to make sure that everybody feels seen or is a part of that is going to be so dramatically different than just being like, here, let me read my 3 lines to you. You're in. Great.
That's it.
Cool. Comfortable? All right, we're going to move on now. But
discipleship flattens everybody.
It does.
Here's your 101, 201. It's like IKEA furniture rather than like a garden.
Yeah.
We've
got the folder, we've got the workbook, we've got the program.
They have their own tools that aren't even real tools.
All bad directions. Yes, in a different language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So I mean, Suze, I want to keep coming back to a bit of your story. What role has therapy and spiritual direction played in discipleship? Like, you were handed a set of orthodoxy, both practice and believings. You began to realize that was an hospitable space for the fullness of who you are. How then? Because I can hear the voices, that are just talking about the therapeuticizing of, the gospel or whatever. What role did those sorts of things play in allowing you to be able to show up?
Welcome to middle-aged white men in therapy.
Yeah, that's our segment.
Well, I think
That's a lot
about
of white.
what you said about typically what happens with a 3. We're going all Enneagram on this right now. So I'm a 3, and you mentioned, Gombis, that like most 3s, have to hit some sort of crisis in order to become more self-aware. And I've been given the gift of quite a few different crises in
Long-term
life.
crises.
So like, I think I've grown in self-awareness throughout my life, but I think that the thing you're asking about is, like post having all of that drilled into me.
Yes.
And then things hitting the fan, and then me like just having a mental breakdown and going to therapy and spiritual direction because it didn't work.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yep.
Like the formulas, the directives, how I was supposed to be, the box I was supposed to fit in, none of it actually worked. And so what do I do with all of that now? Like, how do I belong to this community
How do you
now?
rehumanize it?
Yeah. How do I belong to this community? Do I even want to belong to this community? Am I even a member of this community?
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff kind of came into question. And then, you know, I don't think I've ever, I don't think I could ever say I haven't loved Jesus. I can say like I'm 85% sure it's all what we think it is, and I'm willing to bet my life on it.
Yeah.
But I have always had just an adoration in my heart for him, regardless of what I've experienced. So that's been like the thing that's tethered me to it. But then who am I in light of that? And how do I show up in the church in that way? So it was stepping away from the situation for me, like not being in ministry for a long time, and well, not a long time, but like a year and a half, and kind of reevaluating what it looks like to be in those kinds of positions. And then recognizing too that I had this job where it wasn't a ministry job at all, but I was like pastoring the people in the office. Like it's just like in me to just be that way with people.
Yeah.
And then also when to know not to be that way with people, because I'm loved even when I'm not that way with people.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't give you your significance.
Right. And so it's really like, I really had to wrestle with my identity and how much I put on myself, like probably what you were saying, like the prestige of publishing and all that stuff. Like if I can just do this and be this sort of leader and this sort of teacher, then I will have that kind of respect and
you matter.
Yeah, that I matter. And I really had to let all of that just die. So I love telling the story of my interview at Journey. It was the best job interview ever because I had this like moment. I think it was supernatural. Like I had this moment where I was sitting at my desk at this other job and I was realizing that everything I was reading was on church leadership and like discipleship and like all of that stuff. And so I had this kind of throwing my arms up in the air moment with God saying, okay, fine, I'll go back. If you want me to go back, I'll go back, but you have to make it happen. And literally 1 week later, I get a phone call from Tim Timmons.
Oh my.
And he's like, hey, I don't know what you do, but I got hired at this church and I need some help. And my sister told me to call you because his sister and I went to college together.
Oh, I love that.
And he's like, you probably don't even want to be in ministry anymore. And I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm inviting you into a mess, which he used different language for.
Nice.
But
nice.
I'm inviting you into a mess. And I'm like, well, I'm good with messes now, like I'm used to that. But I showed up at the interview. It was actually where we had lunch today.
Oh, that's funny.
And
Sweet Burger.
Yeah, and I sat there and they were like asking me the basic questions and I was like, look, this is all the things that I'm good at. These are all the things that I like to do. I don't care really what you pay me. I don't really care what you call me, as long as I can like show up and be who I think God made me to be,
Yes.
And it was so freeing because like I didn't care if I got the job or not at that point.
So that's what cruciformity leads to.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by killing my ego. Like I have to get to the place where it doesn't matter, because I have what I need, and
you already matter before the job is gotten or not gotten.
Yeah, I'm loved, I'm delighted in, and people know, like in terms of people, they know I care about them, they know I'm for them, and so if I can just show up in that, then if I mess up, I can say I'm sorry. If it's not enough, I can say, well, that's all I had, and
That's really cool. The way that you're talking, Mike, about discipleship being dehumanizing,
not just for ministries folks, but just for generally Christians. So I know we're talking about ministry.
I
this
know
is
that
true of everybody.
You're talking about like the inherited framework that we had in evangelical spaces about what discipleship looked like was that the more faithful I am as a disciple of Jesus, the less I am myself.
Right. It's dying to yourself. So that's
myself dying.
Yeah,
it's
but
not
that's
like,
the language.
Yeah.
That's the language that I was always given.
Totally.
Like you have to crucify your own flesh. You die to yourself.
Totally.
It's not like even when you at the beginning of the conversation when you asked Gombis about it and you said, "Is it giving up your dreams?" And I felt a little like pain inside because I'm like, no, I don't want to give up my dreams.
Okay, well then let's explore this.
But I do think I need to give up and hold loosely how I hold my dreams.
How you imagine
and
them.
how I imagine them and what I expect of them.
Yeah.
Because
and what you attach to them.
Right.
So
Exactly.
so death to self or death of self. We're saying those are two different things.
Well, to me, it's like when Paul talks about, I've been crucified with Christ and I no longer live. What does he say?
But Christ lives in me.
Christ lives in me, and the life that I do live in the flesh, I live by the faithfulness of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Like, it's so unfortunate that that's just so flat, because I think you can come away with that, and this is what I inherited, is you do come away with that thinking, for me to be crucified with Christ is no more me, all Jesus.
Yeah. That's
Whereas I think the way that I understand it now is what gets crucified as a Christian. And then if I'm a ministry practitioner, like just as a Christian person, what gets crucified and increasingly crucified is all of those idolatries or all my false constructions or all the things that I attached to, like, if I don't get this job or this career, then like I attach my significance to those things. Like all my self-protection, all my false constructions of myself, like all that has to die, so that I can truly live. It's not that it's like no longer me, but it's Jesus. It's like it's no longer the false me, so that the true me can emerge and can breathe, and I can. So like when I talk about putting my shoulders back, like I really imagine like a death to the cowering, hiding self that just doesn't want to be seen. And because I'm already loved, that's a liberating reality that I can stand up straight and not like hold my head high in pride or anything like that, but I can stand up straight and enter spaces confidently with expectation that where the spaces I inhabit are going to be generative of life for me and for anybody that I come into contact with, for like a kid that I have a conversation with, or an adult that I have a conversation with, or whoever I bump into. It's going to be an encounter that sparks life and goodness. So I think that construction is deadly and is anti-Christian. That it's that John the Baptist kind of spirituality. He must increase, I must decrease.
Well, it's made room for a lot of abuse.
For sure.
Within families and with churches and ministry leadership. It's made room for lots of abuse.
Yeah, well, because any kind of standing up and saying, "Hey, this is mistreatment," or "This shouldn't stand." Like, well, that's self-assertion, or that's the flesh talking, or something like that. Yeah, totally.
And just the shame, all that shame, that comes from that reverse talk, because that's so much my therapy is she's pushing A, shame, and then B, as I've talked about in here a bunch of times, identifying false guilt for true guilt and pulling those apart, and true guilt being something that you can repent and rectify and move from, false guilt just being something you carry. And when I think, because my problem is I don't think when I show up to things, I don't feel like I'm worthy enough for them. So one of the things we're working through in therapy is like, we bought our first house. It's this beautiful house. I don't feel like I deserve it, and I feel like it's going to be taken away from me for whatever reason. So we're working through that in therapy. Like, I have not felt at home, or we've been in there for like 3 years. I have not felt at home or comfortable in that house yet. I just sit there and I look at the things that are falling apart, or that it's going to be taken from me at some point, so don't get comfortable. Part of that's rooted in like my parents lost their house. There's things like that are tangible elements that make sense within there. But a lot of it is just the shame of the way that language is set up, is it builds this, I don't know how to word it, but it just fosters so much shame that when I enter into conversations or I enter into, like, when someone was asking about a job interview, and I was like, I'm really, like, when they're like, what are your things you need to work on? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
How much time do you have? I can give you that list. And like, what are your strengths? Oh, I don't know. I can be kind, I guess. You know, and like, and then they're like, well, I'm not gonna hire this guy. This guy just gave me a laundry list of every reason that he's not worthy of this position. Yeah. But that's when my brain is like, I'm not. If I'm the teacher at church,
faults and failings.
Yeah, I shouldn't be up here.
But he doesn't do it for anyone else. It's just inward.
Just me.
Like, he's the most compassionate person to everybody.
But it's all about those shame and false guilt and limitations and that kind of stuff. So that's what the dying to self. I think there's seeds of that have been. Yeah. Rooted and have fostered that version of myself. So now I'm trying to parse through, like, what is the real me? What is the me that is like wonderfully and fearfully made and all that kind of stuff?
And
like,
it's worthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I've grown into, is that all that negative self-talk, because I have the exact same inner voices of shame. Like I said, it's a volcano of shame. It's
heavy.
And it's like
not made of Skittles.
Not of Skittles.
I get to the Skittles. Skittles volcano comes later, after the 2-hour walk.
Which I guess I need.
But I mean, it's like this, it's always this low simmering field of shame that I always feel. And so there was, like, I remember, I got this Faculty of the Year award. And when they started, that's at the banquet, and they started saying, well, he graduated from so-and-so, I knew it was me. I started sweating.
Yeah, totally.
I just wanted to run. I walked up, grabbed it, and sat back down. I was just like, I'm a fraud.
Yep.
This is like, I don't, it's just everything 100%. Awful.
Yep.
And so, like, what I have come to is the realization, like I have this line of thinking about myself and feeling about it. It's more feeling that becomes, words attached to it. And it's like, it does not line up with what is said about me in Scripture. It's not, does not, and then it's also just not objective.
Right.
And so I've tried. This is why, and it does take 2 hours every day, where I change my language, because my days begin with, like, I suck. Do you know what I mean? It's just overpowering.
Yeah. In bed when your eyes open up.
Totally. I'm the worst. Like, and then I get reoriented. I do the work of
reorient yourself
and just speak the truth about myself. And so, like, for me, the liberated Tim steps into those things and it feels like I'm breaking the law when I do this. Like, a topic will come up and I'll just do it. It feels brazen. It feels like so transgressive. I'll just say this. I'm really good at that. I'll do that. I'm not kidding. Like,
does your false self not pop up though and be like,
because it's just like, at this point, I feel
what a human would say during this is that I feel like skills.
How I imagine my inner world is that, like, I get up in the morning and I'm like drowning in this this lava flow of shame, and what I do is I just breathe, and movement is helpful, and I get to this place where I realize the truth about myself, and it feels like, in the terrain of my inner world, it feels like I get this objective, like perch to watch my inner world take shape, and then I can have immense compassion for it, and then I can also see that it is a field of wonder. But it takes that time to get to that place, and so that I'll just step into saying something like that. And I already can imagine there's always that low simmer, that low hum of shame, and it doesn't get activated to the extent anymore where it's overwhelming. Like, you're lying, you're not actually good at that. It's like, no, yeah, I'm good at that. Yeah, that would be good for me to participate that way.
I want to hear the domains that would generate from you in an interchange or exchange a response that said, I'm good at that. So what are you good at? Tim Gombis. I want to know. You're good driving. You're a good driver.
Oh, I'm a superior driver.
Yes.
Walking. Yeah.
Yes. What else?
I'm a really good teacher.
Yes, you are.
I communicate well, and I know I have a way of articulating things in such ways that are compelling and that actually create classroom experiences where everybody's drawn in.
I can affirm that.
Yeah, you were a student.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm a fantastic PE teacher.
Dude, no doubt.
Like, I'm not kidding. I have loved being with these kids and like generating for them a day where it's just like we have a great time, and then finding the balance between needing to use my very big voice to get order, but then like
Mr. G
having like that softness and sweetness to just bring smiles to kids' days and give them a good day. So
I love that. Stafford, what are you good at?
Well, I'm not there yet. I'm in process.
You got it. All right, give me 2.
My problem is like the first thing pops in my head is like, well, I'm going to explain it. Like, I'm a good father. But
Yes,
then
you are.
the other voice comes in and it's like, well, are you? Because here's
Right.
Well, I'm a good husband.
see, for me, it's become, here's one of the things that I worked on. This a very good friend of mine just helped me with this because we've done a lot of work together. But she helped me to see that that I always want to add a but.
Always.
Yeah.
And
The end
so
of Pee Wee's Big
now-
Adventure.
And she would always say, "Why can't you just leave it there?"
Yeah. Well, and I was
But so
telling
now I
Mike,
do. So you should catch yourself at the
Catch the
butt
butt.
and just be like,
Yeah. No
like,
but.
I'll give
No
the butt
butts.
10 minutes later
no
or
cuts,
whatever.
no butts, no coconuts.
See more butts.
All
All right, so let's just try it again.
I'm a good father.
Yeah.
Period.
Boo, that's huge.
But we were in therapy. We were talking about, what was it? I talked to you about this the other day. I was telling her how I'm not great at anything. I'm good or pretty decent at a lot of things. I'm not great at anything. And she's like, that's not true. You have a gift and you're using it in a bunch of different areas. And so it doesn't feel like this one explosive thing in this
Come
one
on.
place.
Come on.
And I was like, oh, crap. And then I had to sit with that for like a day or two.
So what is
and
that?
I don't remember what it was like. It was showing up. It's like why she's pushing me to be a spiritual director or
Right.
coach
Yeah.
is like I can show up and I can sit there and I can be with people in that thing, and I invite curiosity and I invite like I create safety for people to ask hard questions. She's like, you're really good at helping people to tear things down or something like that. I can't remember exactly what
Not
the
in a
words
bad
were.
way.
Yeah.
but
No, in a
a
healthy way.
yeah,
Like
And you're not afraid of the darkness and the hard spaces.
not at all.
No, he loves Halloween.
No,
That's where it
I know. Well,
belongs.
on Easter too, I used your thing on Easter about coming out, like being in the dark and coming out to the light, and how
Yes.
disorienting the light is,
Totally.
and how I love the darkness and I live in the darkness. I am darkness. And so, but I know that I need the light, and so when I come out though into the light, it's very, very disorienting
So
for
you're
me. And I have to
Batman.
acclimate.
Yeah.
Yes.
You need some skills.
Long
You need
story
to
Long
be
story
capable.
short.
I am the Batman.
All right, Suze, your turn. You're not getting out of this.
I think I am good at making people feel welcome,
Oh,
like they matter.
hospitality galore.
That's huge.
I've been told I ask really good questions.
That's not the equivalent of saying that you're good at something.
You ask really good questions.
I think I'm good, like
Nope,
what you said.
nope.
I'm good at making space for curiosity,
Yes.
which I haven't always been, but I think that's an area I've really grown in. Making room for that, like having safe spaces for curiosity and depth and being challenged and, wrestling and
In what way were you not good at that before? Like what's emerged and so that you feel like you've tracked
I
growth?
thought God needed my help to fix it all.
So you're more of a fixer instead of like let things unfold as they are or what they are, or be inquisitive instead of just enter fix mode right away.
Yeah, I used to be more of a
Yeah.
fixer. I think I can sometimes in unhealthy moments go back there, but I don't actually enjoy doing that anymore. Like it's very freeing for me to tell myself, oh, this is not my work to do.
Yeah.
Like that's been
That's
like the
huge.
best sentence for me is to tell myself, oh, this is not my work to do, or like this is a you problem, not a me problem. But I'm here with you and your problem, and
Yeah.
it's really hard to do with your kids. I mean, for
No
me,
doubt.
that's really hard to do
No
with my
doubt.
kids because I think they need me to tell them where to go and what to do.
And
But
that's where your
they
dysfunctions
don't.
show up most. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, for me,
Did
it's
you
the
have-
empath. Like you take on, it's
Yeah.
learning how to not take everybody else's burdens on
Yeah.
and then just be completely buried by them.
oh, big
yeah.
time.
I don't think I take their burdens on. I take their responsibility on
Yeah.
because I don't really. I mean, I think you care about people more than I do, actually.
Did you have a
Involuntarily.
chaotic family system growing up that like you were fixing and settling and like just,
She was one of the adults,
yeah.
or the adult.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're managing everyone's emotions, managing everyone's chaos. Yeah.
Mike?
Well, I'm a great podcast host. I'm great at segues. I think I'm hilarious. And no, I would say I am good at teaching. I love it, and I think I'm good at it. And I think I'm a good joy bringer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good celebrator of people. And I think I bring energy and enthusiasm to things. So, so the point of this, we literally just did the nonference to each other. This is what we do during the nonference. We set the table.
Ready to non it up?
We set the table, and then we go to work, and we do it together. And I guess the big thing for me, the liberating thought has been, this isn't some extra thing. This is what discipleship looks like. Mm-hmm. Obviously, having good theology helps, and having bad theology harms. Obviously, being part of a community where this stuff can be worked out in safety and in curiosity and humility, massively important. But we've just segmented, at least my tradition has segmented the work of becoming like Christ away from the work of being healthy emotionally and mentally. And I'm so glad some of those days are over. We were talking at lunch. My son Nate was with us, and he has, of his own accord, just taken advantage of a sports psychologist that's there available for free. Yeah. And my daughter is in therapy as well. And there's a much more, a much greater willingness and openness to these sorts of conversations in the generations to come that gives me, kind of a great deal of hope. Because I think one of the things we were talking about is just, we hate that it's taken this long to figure some of this out, but it kind of had to in some ways, given the backgrounds that we had and the Christianity we sort of inherited. So
I think also it's important to say that we are able to go to therapy and get therapy.
And that is a privilege.
It's a privilege for us. And there are more and more spaces coming up for people who, if you can't afford a therapist and that's something that you feel like you need help with, there are resources out there that are increasing in number. And I think not being able to afford it is not a great option. Like, there are other options.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good word. So anyway, brothers and sisters, thank you to our esteemed panel that just we look at each other and it's glorious. We're just here. I can see their faces.
It's weird.
Gombis, I appreciate the fact that you crucified the desire to color your hair. It is a lot of white, and it's
heavenly though.
It's heavenly.
Can you imagine I could never
I am right
in
now.
1,000 years imagine doing that.
Yeah.
It is heavenly. I have heavenly hair.
I don't know
From the mouths
if
of
I'm a New
babes.
Testament scholar that the first thing I'm going to comment on is someone's appearance. I do that with Stafford every time, but he's not a New Testament scholar, and he's so freaking good looking.
Well, this was a New Testament scholar that commented on my appearance.
I know. Seriously,
That's
it's like,
funny.
oh.
It cracked me up. Anyway.
All right. Till next time, friends. Love you. See ya. Bye.